Okay, we're up to the bottom lamid, the bottom line on lamid vav amid base, lamid vav amid base. Again, just keep in mind that the halachas of challah and the halacha of matzah are basically are synonymous. What can be used when you have a chiyuv to be mafish matzah or mafish challah, usually it's the same grain that you could go ahead and make matzah from. So Torah Banan, ein oifin pas ava b'Pesach. Pas
Where are you
ava.
starting from?
Excuse me.
Where are you starting from?
A lamid vav amid base at the bottom. Yeah, I'm recording. So ein oifin pas ava Pesach. You cannot bake pas ava on Pesach. Now, when it says Pesach, the hava mina is that it's a chametz stikadin, right? Or else why are you mentioning Pesach more than Shavuos or Sukkot? The fact that you're mentioning Pesach is mashma, it's a din chametz, correct? Not a din challah, it's a din chametz. So ein oifin thick bread on Pesach. Rabbi Shammai, these are the words of Rabbi Shammai, and I guess the concern being that it should not become chametz. Besil matirim, Besil will permit you to make pas ava. The kama pas ava, what's the width of pas ava? Amar Rav Huna tefach, a tefach. In other words, can you imagine a challah that's this thick? Can you imagine a challah that's this thick? A matzah that's this thick? She came with sina belechem upon him tefach. Now, as I told you many times, the only two chametz there was in the Beis Hamikdash was one of the 40. 10 of the 40 of the Korban Todah, and the Shtei Lechem on Shavuos. The Lechem upon him, guys, was made out of matzah. In other words, it wasn't chametz. Yet the Lechem upon him, the face of the walls of the Lechem upon him were a tefach thick. So you see that what up to a tefach, it's possible to go ahead and have something that's not chametz. Again, this the chalas of the Sfardim, the matzahs of the Sfardim are thick. Maskefla Rabbi Yosef, Im Amru Bizrizim, Yomru B'Sheinas Rizim. What kind of raya can you bring to pas ava to a regular run-of-the-mill Jew compared to the Kahanim? As we stated yesterday, the Kahanim are Zrizim, they're very diligent, and they would make sure that this lechem upon them would not become chametz. Masha'en came to go ahead and allow Stama Jew to get up to a tefach. We won't let that. Im Amru Pas Amela. If you say it by the minachos, the lechem upon him is considered like a mincha. Yomer pasha eina mela. They used to go ahead. Rashi brings the Gemara minachos. They would rub it 300 times and beat it 500 times to stop it from going to become chametz. They went to such extremes. No one outside the Beis Hamikdash is doing that. So, the people doing it are zaris, and the process of making it is one that goes ahead and and impedes it from becoming chametz. If we say it by wood, which was maximum heat wood, fellas, after the 15th day of they did not use that wood for the mizbeach because it had moisture in it. So this mamish, this carbon was made from wood that was so hot. This lechem upon him was so hot. So therefore, of course, it would become chametz because it heated up to a large high temperature right away. Cham, Yom Reb Tana Tzoinin. There was a Tana Cham. The Beis Hamikdash was constantly being used. They were always hot. So therefore, it's going to go ahead and make it right away. But time we're going to say Yom Reb Tana Tzoinin, a cool oven. I guess if it's used only once in a while, it's considered a cool oven. And Yom Reb Tana Shel Mateches, the one in the Beis Hamikdash was made out of metal. Yom Reb Tana Shel Cheres, what we say by Tana Cheres. In other words, this cannot be a din in Pas Ava. This it doesn't make any sense to tell me that pas ava means a matzah that you can be up to the thickness of a tefach and the limit is lechem upon him. It can't be because there's so many reasons to say that not to allow that waiver. There's so many reasons not to allow it. There's reason, the heat of the tanner, the heat of the wood, the amount of beating of the dough. So therefore, Omer of Yirmiyah bar Abba she'ilis es Rabbi b'yichud. Yes, Rabbi Rashi brings two pshatim in yichud. Either we were between ourselves or clearly. I asked him clearly, money Rav, and who is it? Rav. It could be Amir of Yirmiyah or Rabbi. Amar Rav. Shelis is Rabbi. I asked B'yichud Umano or is Rabbi no Kaddish? It was Rabbi Ben. The question was yesterday. Ask from Rav. Yes, from Rabbi. My pas ava. What's pas ava, guys? Is pas meruba. It's pas that you're filling up on an oven on Yontif. So now you just made a 180-degree turn. you're not speaking at all about chametz. You're speaking about hilchos yontif. Are you allowed to be matriach and yontif to fill up an oven with or need a pas ava, a thick piece of dough? So again, initially when it said Pesach, as we began to share, we thought it was speaking about a chametz dikadin. Now we're going 180 degrees. No, we're not speaking about chametz. We're speaking about yontif, and we're not speaking about the tefach. We're speaking about, can you go ahead and be matriach to need a big piece of dough to go ahead and fill up the oven? My correlate pasava. Why is it called thick? If it's a lot, why is it called thick? What are you doing? You're taking a big dough, you're going ahead and kneading it, it's chametz gomer, and you're cutting it up into pieces, and then you're sticking these pieces onto the wall of the oven. This is mashma guys like pita. They used to eat pita. They used to go ahead, they have the oven, and they would go ahead and fill the oven, and it would cook better. We're going to see in a second. Like Beis Hillel, it would cook better when it was on the wall, was less space open. So so. Therefore, when it says over here, ein ofen pas yontif, Beis Shammai says he doesn't allow it, and Beis Hillel allows it. Beis Hillel says this last. We'll see in a second. V'boyasema ba'asrei dahai tana lepas meruba pas ava karelei. They just called a lot of pas. They called it pas ava, but not that it was like needed a lot together. My timer now. Now, if you sell, what's the reason you can't do it? If you're going to tell me because you're being matriach on yontif, something you shouldn't do. So, I'll have a question. My area of Pesach. Why are Beis Shammai V'Hillel? Why are they arguing by Pesach? Bishlein, if you tell me it's a chametz dikadin, I can understand why they're arguing by Pesach. But if you're going to tell me it's a din in tircha, then it's any yontif, right? Any yontif, whether it's could be Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Says, I feel b'yontif nami, and nami. You're right. It could have been any one of the others. Why did he learn Pesach? When he said this halacha, he happened to it would happen to be Pesach, but not to tell me it's a din in chametz. Tanya nami hachi, that it's a din in tircha the yontif, guys. Tanya nami hachi, that it's a din in tircha the yontif, and not a din in matzah, not in chametz. Beis Shammai yomim ein loifim pas ava. Guys, what does it say? Be yontif. It doesn't say Pesach. Because he says the word yontif. Why? Because it's a din in hilchos yontif, not in hilchos Pesach. Beis Hillel matiri, Beis Hillel permits it, right? If you look at Tosfos tells you the reason. It's Gemara in Beitza, guys. Beis Hillel matiri, time of the Beis Hillel that's mutter. Why does he allow you to put a lot? Kidaminon ma'aromas isha va'oifet tanor. She can make a trick the woman and bake a tanor moli kikarois. Even though she only needs one, because that one will be better as a full oven. So that's the reason he permitted it. That's the reason he permitted it. A second time, Stamas let it bake, that you would not be permitted. Torah in Pesach, matzah, yotzin bepas nakia, yotzin while the pasta is clean. Again, not just that whole wheat brown stuff. Uba hadra'ah, and you can be yotzei with whole wheat, right? Thank you, Avrami Weiner, for the whole wheat sourdough challah. Thank you very much, Avrami. Ube bisarikin hamutsuyarim, the matzah that had images in the matzah. They brought down Shulchan Aruch that have images of animals in the matzah.
Animal crackers.
I know it's animal crackers. It's mashma. There was a seer. It wasn't an animal crack, no. It was just a picture of an animal on it. But Pesach, now, the problem is with Srikin is that it's going to take time to go ahead and make the drawing. And the time of making the drawing, maybe it'll rise and become chametz. So it says that you would be yotzei with this. You would be yotzei with this. Right? You would be yotzei even though you're not supposed to make b'diavad. If you do it, you're yotzei. I'm Rabbi Yehuda. Davizeh shol Besus ben Zunin. There was a person, Besus ben Zunin, lechachamim. Why lechatchila can I not make drawings of anything on top of matzahs? Because the woman who's making it is going to go ahead and delay, and as a result, it's going to become chametz. Go make it with a mold. In other words, you're going to press the mold in, and the mold will make that sear. this is mashma like mish, like an animal cracker. It's going to make a picture or an image on the matzah. So, and that doesn't take any time. So why would it be a problem using it on Pesach? If it's a whole problem delaying, then it may come to chametz. Get it the fuss of mold, put it down, bingo, and you're good. And you'll be kaveh kivon at once. So Amaloi Yomru, they'll say Kala Sarikim Asurin, the Srike basis mutarim. Everyone else is Srikin Zasa, and Srikin basis is Mutta, because he's the only one who had the mold. In other words, we give a halacha, we have to give it across the board. So Einachrami basis Bazunin was able to make a Sarikim with Siyorim Matzis without a shiloh of chametz because he had a mold. But any other person is going to make it. We have the problem. Maybe they're going to delay in making it, and it's a kam chametz. The Yoma people say Srike basis mutarin, b'chol Srikas asurin. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna. This is like the shiloh. This is the lashon they use for like loy plug. Everyone, you're gonna say everyone's asa and his is muta. Loy plug across the board. We need a universal halacha, not a halacha that's going to bring controversy in Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Elazar bar Sadak Pamachas Nechnasi Achar Abba Lebeis Rabbi Gamliel. I once went in with my father at Sadak to the house of Rabbi Gamliel. They view the fun of shrieking them surrounded Pesach. On Pesach, they took a board in front of us these matzahs that had surim on it. Amarti. So said Rabbi Elazar, Abba, like Acham Tachamim, nice and shrieking at surrounded Pesach. So Amali, so if Sadik told Rabbi Elazar, Bini, Loishal Kol Adam Amru, El Nachtumim. We didn't say it by every person. You can't make it. We only said what by a baker. Now a baker, he might delay in the process of this matzah because since he's a professional and it's going to be out there, his reputation's on the line. So he'd want to make it as nice as possible. Thus, it may take more time. Whereas the balabas will not care as much, and therefore he can make the srikim because it's not going to delay making comments. So this is the tzad that the nachtum is more svara to asa than the balabas, because the nachtum is going to delay in making it as perfect as possible. Thus, it'll rise and become chametz.
You're not worried about that with the professional with the avodah zarah? It's putting by you.
This is matzah.
So matzah is not, but by bread you might have an extra.
This is matzah. The
Rabbi, this is just the opposite of what they told Bises. They said Bises, you really could make it, and according to Rabbi Gamliel, says Bises wouldn't be able to make it.
We didn't say it by the professional bakers. The professional bakers who are malumid, they're accustomed to working with it. They work very quickly, right? Then we're not worried. Ela shel kol adam. It was all by all of the people. So either way, you're going to say, according to the first lashon, the tziyurim were made from a balabas, and the second one was made by a professional baker. So there's two studies. So the set basis will be according to the other side. Amar Rabbi Yosi, oisen srikin kamin rakikin, vein oisen srikin kamin blue skies. You can make rakikin. You can make rakikin like wafers. You can make them thin like wafers, but you can't make them glue skies. It's put down in halacha not to make. You should not make this. In other words, it's the rate over here is the Gemara started off. It was a din of chametz. The Gemara started off. It was a din of tefach. The Gemara then slugged it up from it can't be speaking about the lechem apanim. Lechem apanim. So now the question is, does that slug up mean so you can never make that type of matzah, or is it that a slug up for Pesach, but you could do it for Yontif, it's not a tircha, or not? The question is, do we have charata from that teretz or not? Do we say it's true or not? That's the raid. But it's brought down that you should not do that. Again, the matzahs we have are very, very thin. We want to be yotza any chash of chametz whatsoever. Again, the Sfardim have a different minhag. Yesham alismach and Shulchan Aruch, and they make it their way. Tarabanan. Now we're going back now to Eli Altis in the house. Now we're going back now to challah, guys. We're going now back to challah. We're leaving chametz and going back to challah. Tarabanan. Hasufgonim. This is probably the lashon of sufganiot comes from. Hasufgonim is some type of sponge cake, sponge loaf. This is all Oskol's terms. Dufshanim is made with honey. The iskaritin is something that's a thin wafer. The chalas hamasres, that's a pan loaf. Again, these are art school terms. V'hameduma and demua. Truma falls into chulin. Truma falls into chulin. Pturim and achala. All these are patur from chala. Now, as a hakdama, here's the pasuk from chala, guys. It says, "V'hoya ba'alchalchem ilechem aretz," and what it'll be when you come to eat from the bread of the land. Tarimu truma l'Hashem. You should separate the truma achala for the kayin. It's for Hashem, and that's created the share of chala, and you should go ahead and take it off. So the question is are these things lechem? When you eat, when it says, the pasuk says clearly, the lechem aretz. So these things, all these things that we said, the pan loaf and the dushanim, the sponge loaf, all these things are not lechem. Look at the first wide line in Rashi. The first wide line in Rashi, uptur min achala dichsiv ba'acholchem ilechem haaretz v'hani lav lechem ninu. These are not lechem. Well, the kamei mefarish taima will explain why they're not lechem. And the final din was dimua, correct? Dimua was a trum mixed with chulin. Says Rashi, v'ameh dimua. Chulin shenaflu truma l'soichan. Chulin non trumatic food. That truma fell in, pata. It'd be pata from chala. The turima truma ksiv v'leishek kavar haya truma. It says you should separate truma and not separate something that already was truma. So therefore, it's a legal loophole why you don't go ahead. So one is not because it's not lechem, and the case by the muah, it is lechem, but what? But you can't separate truma from truma. So therefore, what? Therefore, that's the reason it's pata. So those are the dinim that I mentioned here. Now the Gemara goes, my chalas amsaris. What is this pan loaf? Amr B'Shuvan Levi zeh cholet shebalabatim. It's scalded flour of balabatim. Before they would bake it, they would go ahead and scald it. It's like a bagel. They would go ahead and scald it, and then they would bake it. It doesn't seem to be lechem. Amar Reish Lakish, halalu ma'aseh ilfis. It's halalu. He calls it ma'aseh ilfis. These things, sufgonium, duvshanim, these are all fried. Ilfis, guys, is a frying pan. Ilfis is a frying pan. These are all fried. If it's fried, it's not lechem. Rabbi Yochanan says, ma'aseh ilfis chayavim. Ma'aseh ilfis, a frying pan, you would be mechayev. V'halalu she'aseh b'chama. And all these dushanim, sufganim, maskaritim, chalas masaris, they're all sun-baked. And therefore they're potter because that's not considered lechem. So guys, we have machloikis. This is important to know because this is the rest of the daf. Machloikis, according to Reish Lakish, ilfis is potter. According to Rabbi Yochanan, ilfis is chayev, a frying pan. Again, what would they do? They would heat the frying pan up and they would stick the thing on it. So therefore, does it have a din like an oven or not? And we're going to see that that's going to be the sugya, whether you put it on before it's heated up or you put it on after it's heated up. But again, Rabbi Yochanan says it's ilfis is mamish chayiv. It's mamish no different than an oven. And Reish Lakish says ilfis is potter. It's not considered lechem. If it's fried, it's not considered lechem. So let's go see. We'll see now the machloikis. Fred the Gemara Kasha. We're going to ask first on Reish Lakish. Meisivei hasufganim v'hatuvshanim v'skaritin ason beilfis. If you make them in a frying pan, chayavim, then you will be chayev because it's considered.
I found this on the web.
The whole day I don't hear from her. In the middle of shir, she's a batlin. Alexa is a batlin. Officially, we should send it. Alexa is a batlin. Now, the mashma from here clearly that if you cook it and fry it in ilfis, it's chayev, like Rabbi Yochanan and a kasha on Reish Lakish. So says the Gemara, right? Tiyufta the Reb Shimon ben Lakish. It's a tiyufta upshlag of Shimon ben Lakish who says ilfis yipata. It's not considered lechem. Ama'ula amalach Reb Shimon ben Lakish. No, there's a different way you use the ilfis. Hachamay eskinon sheher siach. You heated up the ilfis. And then you took the dough and stuck it against it. Then it's the same as an oven. Again, in those ovens, fellas, think about Rabbi Twersky's Pesach oven. You go ahead, they put inside a lot of wood, and it gets very hot inside, and you put the matzahs down. So what they do is they put it inside it's It's not Rabbi Tversky's oven. You ever seen a Nechama bakery in Beis Yisrael? If you went to the Mir Yeshiva, there's a 24-hour bakery on the corner at the top, and they make this Iraqi flatbread. It's mamish geschmack as anything. They would go ahead. They heat. It's a brick oven. They heat it up, and they would have the stuff against the wall, stuck against the wall. It's like a bialy. Comes off the wall. It's unbelievable. So if you do the same thing to an ilfis, you heat it up and then stick something against it. Shlokish would be moida. That type of ilfis is lechem. There's no difference because you're heating the object. In this case, metal, probably, right? Or even, maybe use ferrous. I don't know. And it's doing the same thing. But what happens if you stick it on first and then heat it up? Then you putter. Then it's not lechem. So that's the way Reish Lakish would answer this kash on him. This is speaking when you heated it up first and then stuck the dough on. When did I say it's not considered baking when first you stick it on and then you heat it up? So question. Aditani Sefer, when we learned the Sefer of that Brisa, a son, the Chama, if you made the Sifgani, the Duvshonim, Iskaritim, if you made them in the sun, Beturim, why did you have to go ahead and chapsik a new kesler putter? I've told you this at least 5 to 6 times since we began Shas. Now what? That if you could tell me the Chiddush in the first case, don't bring a new case to tell me the same Chiddush. It's mashba. The only reason you putter is because it's in the sun. Meaning, by the case of ilfis, there's no wait. It's putter. 1 second. What are you talking about? Liflid listening b'didah. The ilfis itself, you can tell me a chiddush that it's putter. You don't have to chapsik on techama. The medav mamurim. When it's considered, when are you chayiv? When is it considered baking? Sher siach l'seif hidbik. When you heated up the oven, and then stuck it in, then you chayiv. Aval hidbik l'seif your siach. But at first you stuck the dough on, and then you heated it up, peturin. Right? Then you be pata. So that's the Gemara's kasha. Why do you have to tell me jump to the case of chama to teach me pata? Why do you have to jump to the case of chama to teach me pata? You could have told me the case of within the case of hirsiach betur. At first you put on the dough and then you heated it up. And for the Gemara, you're right. It's missing words. And here's what you have to learn. When do we say that you're chayiv? When you first heated up the ilfis and then you stuck on the dough. But at first you stuck on the dough and then you heated it up. Naseh will view it as it was made in the sun, because that's not considered lechem. Okay, so we have machloikis between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. If Maisa Ilfis of a frying pan is considered lechem or not, according to Reish Lakish, it's not. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it is. And it's a hechatim. So according to Reish Lakish, if you heat up the frying pan and then you go ahead and put it on, it would be chayiv. Tashma, question again. Yoitza b'matzah hina. Your yoitza with matzah called hina. We'll see what that is in a second. Uv'matzah ha'yisuyim be'ilfis. A matzah that's made in a frying pan. So it's a rayat Rabbi Yochanan and a kash on Reish Lakish. You see, an ilfis is considered lechem oini because again, to be yotzei the mitzvah of matzah, it's got to be lechem. And for the Gemara Hachanami, shir siach of sehivik, same teretz. It's speaking where you heated up the ilfis, it's hot, and then you would adhere a piece of matzah of dough to it. Then that in Hachanami you'll be yotzei the mitzvah of matzah. Now, digressing from the machlokas Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. My matzahina, when it says matzahina b'yoytza, what in the world is matzahina? So, guys, al koichel mimenu no umevushel. You can't eat the carbon pesach cooked, no, or half roasted. It can't be halfway. So that's lashon hina. The matzah is halfway baked. So it's you're yoytza with half baked matzah. Rav Yehuda Mishmuel kol sheparsa. If you break the matzah, vein chutim nimshachim mimenu. If it's very raw, there's like little pieces, they look like hair coming between the flour and the water. As soon as that goes, even though it breaks easily, it's considered matzah. Even though it breaks easily. Amarava, the same thing again of the 40 loaves of toida, 30 of them are matzah. So you'll be yoitza with when it gets to the extent of matzah hina to that degree, it would be considered kosher for the toida. Fred the Gemara Pshita, Hacha lechem ksiv, hacha lechem ksiv. In other words, you can't distinguish and say it's good for one, it's good for the other. If it's lechem oni, lachme toida, lechem is lechem. Lechem is lechem. So Ma'adutema hoil ksiv. The pasuk says, "V'hikra v'imenu on the base, v'hikra v'imenu echad mikol carbon," and you should go ahead and bring one of them. But the kohen gets one of the. You're bringing four types. You're bringing one of chametz and three of revichin, rikikin, and mevuchar, and something like that. Help me out. Rikikin, chalis, rikikin, miruvachim, right? Miruvachim. That's what it is. Miruvachim. So those you give one of each to the kohen. Now, when it says echad means what? Shlo yitul paris. You shouldn't take off a piece. In other words, you have to give a full lechem to the kohen. You can't give a piece to the kohen. V'hacha commanded prisadamya. And over here, guys, since it's not fully baked and it breaks easily, so I might think that's considered l'inyan lachmei toida. Since I have a special pasuk, you can't get anything broken. So the l'inyan matzah, where I'm not the hakpad, it doesn't have to be shalem, right? That'll be shalem as lechem mishnah, but there's no din in shleimus in the matzah. So therefore, I would say it's considered good. Masha'en came by the kohen by lachmei toida, where it's a din in shleimus. I might think it's not good because it's considered broken since it breaks easily. Kamashalon, since it's not broken, it's okay. That's the chiddush. Let's get back to the machlokas between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish says what? That an ilfis is pata. Reish Lakish says, and Rabbi Yochanan says an ilfis is chayev. Meisive, we're going to ask a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. Hami'isa, we'll see what that is in a second. Beishamai poitrin, Beishamai patis from chala. Beis Hillel mechayavim. Beis Hillel says yechayev. Hachlita, we'll see what that is. If that means scolding, we'll see what it means in a second. Beis Shammai mechayavim and Beis Hillel poitrin. So it seems to be a process that's similar to each other, that you're doing something to the challah, the dough, before you bake it. Before you make it in challah, there's a process ongoing, either a process called me'isa or a process called chalita. And we have machlokas Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. One place Beis Shammai says yechayev, and the other place Beis Hillel says yepater, and vice versa. So what's this me'isa that they're arguing in? Ve'eza chalita. Ha'me'isa is kemach shal gabi mugloshin. You take the flour and you put it on top of the boiling water. Hachlita is mugloshim shal gabi kemach. You pour the boiling water on top of the flour. So they both seem to be boiling water and flour. Question is, which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Which came first? Did the water come first or did the flour come first? That seems to be machlokas. The Gemara is going to ask, fellas, so why does Beis Shammai say one place is mutter, one place is also? Why it's more lechem, one place it seems to be the same thing. Manushach. If it's lechem, one place is lechem, the other place. And we're going to get back to that in a second. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Mishum Aviv. Rabbi Shmuel says the name of his father, Rabbi Yossi Chalafta. Mishum Aviv, Zeh v'zeh liftar. Both of them are part from Chala. In other words, he argues on Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, who argue. He says they're both pata. They're not considered lechem. The Imri others say that Rabbi Yossi said Zeh v'zeh l'chiyuvim. They're both chayiv. So here we have three shitas so far. We have the shita of Beis Shammai who says by me'isa it's pata and Beis Hillel says yechayiv. By chalita Beis Shammai says pata and Beis Hillel says yechayiv. And we have Rabbi Yishmael say in both cases pata, and then we have another lashon in both cases yechayiv. And just to get you more mixed up, the chachamim moimim echad zeh v'echad zeh. The asa ilfis, if you make it in an ilfis in a frying pan, then pata. There's your kasha on Rabbi Yochanan right there, guys. There's your kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. Again, long-winded brayso. What does Rabbi Yochanan say? Ilfis is considered baking. Here it openly says that ilfis is pata. That's going to be your kasha. But a heather, if you bake it, in other words, after the chalita, after the me'isa, whether you put the flour in the water, you put the water in the flour, if you put it in a frying pan, potter, it's not considered lechem. If you put that concoction in an oven and bake it, it is lechem. Good. That's what the Chacham say. The Tanakama, who brought down the machloikas Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, what's the difference? Like, why in one case does Beis Shammai say yechayev and Beis Hillel says potter? Apparently, they're both l'chayre, they should be consistent. Scalded flour is not lechem. It should not make a difference whether the flour came first or the water came first. Yeah, we made a distinction. So the Gemara wants to know, but Tanakama, who made the distinction of Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, guys, Maishna hamiisa u'maishna chalita. So Rabbi Yehuda, Mashmuel, v'chein Rabbi Yehuda, v'yitem Yeshua ben Levi, k'machloikis bezu, k'ach machloikis bezu. In other words, it's the same machloikis, meaning, read it this way, guys. Hamiisa, 3 lines from the top. Beishamai poitrin beisil mechayavim. Hachlita, beishamai peturin beisil mechayavim. In other words, there is no difference. There is no difference. So clearly, if you can learn the brisa the way I just read it, it's arguing on the first part. Here we're saying this Tana Kama in the first Lashon makes a distinction between Chalita and Asisa, and Beishamai and Beisil say different shitas but according to this, no. Beishamai is always going to say Yapata, and Beisil is always going to say Yechayev. Good. V'tavra, and it's a stira. Misha shanazu lo shanazu. The one who learns the brisa the latter way, that they stay consistent. Beishamai always holds Yapata, and Beisil says Yechayev, right? Argues on the way, the girsa that we have, that Beishamai says Pata by Asisa and Chayev by Chalita, and Beisil says Chayev by Asisa and Pata by Chalita. Good. Ketani Mias, the bottom line is, Ketani Mias, what did we learn? The Chachamim said, Echad zeh v'echad zeh, whether you did Chalita or you did Asisa, whether you put the flour first or you put the water first, Sha'asim be'ilfis, if you put it in a frying pan afterwards, Pater. What does Rabbi Yochanan hold? Chayev. Right. Betaner Chayev, Tiyufta the Rabbi Yochanan, l'chayr it's an upshlag on Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan shita that frying is considered is not considered is considered baking. You see over here, it's not considered baking. How does Rabbi Yochanan get out of this? Again, this is the most tachik teketeres you can give. An Amoira only wants to come out according to everybody. If push comes to shove, he'll say it's a machlokes tanoim. The brisa that you just brought, I argue with. It's shver me. Yet I found a Tana that I go according to. And I can't come out the kuliyam. I can't come according to everybody. But I found a Tana that holds like me. What did I find? It's machlokes tanoim. The Tanya. Yachal, I might think, yehi meisa the chaluta chayav mechala. I might think whether the water comes first, or the dough comes first, or the flour comes first, is chayav mechala. Tamid loymar. Therefore, it says lechem. Mashma that mashma yapata, right, guys? I might think yechayev tamid loymar lechem, and scalded flour or water is not lechem. That's what it says. That's the Tana Kama. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Ein lechem ela ha'afi b'taner." The only thing that's considered lechem is baked in an oven. Now, the Tanakama was discussing asisa and chalita. That's not baked in an oven, correct? So aren't they saying the same thing? Says the Tanakama, if you have scalded flour, it's not what? It's not lechem. Says Rabbi Yehuda, the only thing that's considered lechem is baked in an oven. Chalita is not baked in an oven. So therefore, I'd say it's not challah. So what's the machlokes? Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda. What are they arguing in? Fred the Gemara right away. Rabbi Yehuda and Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda saying the same thing as the Tanakama, that asisa and chalita are not considered bread. Elalav ma'ase ilfis ikabinayo. Here's your machlokes. Machlokes is if you put it in a frying pan after you scald it, after you do asisa, after you chalita, you put it in a frying pan. Tanakama sava ma'ase ilfis chayavim. Tanakama holds ma'ase ilfis chayavim, and that's what Rabbi Yochanan holds according to. Rabbi Yehuda is 7. No, ma'ase ilfis peturin. Guys, what was the lashon of Rabbi Yehuda? The only thing that's lechem is me'afe tanner when it's cooked in an oven, cooked in fried in a frying pan, not. But we can infer, if that's the words of Rabbi Yehuda, that only in an oven and not in a frying pan, it must be the Tanakama holds frying pan. Yes. I, Rabbi Yochanan, hold like the Tanakama. I have a Tana who says that if you go ahead and fry it, it's considered lechem. And that's what I hold it according to. So if that's the Svaras HaMachlokes, Rabbi Yochanan has Yesh Amal Lismach for Shita. How we doing, guys? We're good? Says the Gemara, you have no raya. No. Light, no raya. As soon as you understand it, the Gemara says, light. The Kuli Alma, myself is Peturin. Even myself is Potter, and Rabbi Yochanan does not have a Tana to go according to. So if they hold myself is Potter, what exactly is the machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda? If you go ahead, take the scalded stuff and put it in an oven. Komiflagi. The Tanakama Savar, Kimin Shechazev Afa'o B'Tanor, since you go ahead and bake it, even though you scalded it first, lechem karin and bake. That's considered lechem. Rabbi Yehuda Savano, ein lechem ela ha'ofui b'tana me'ikara, right? It has to be initially made in a tanner and not in an ilfis, and then in a tanner. The kimin the me'ikara lav b'tana afia lav lechem hu. And since you didn't make it in a tanner, it's not lechem. So according to this, Rabbi Yochanan stuck. According to this, the tiyufta is in place. Again, let's go over that side. We began this year. We have this machloikus between Beis Shammai, between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish says that a frying pan, something fried in a frying pan, it's not good for matzah, and it's not considered lechem. It's not lechemoni. According to Rabbi Yochanan, a frying pan is. We have a brayso that says mufurish the chachamim say that scalded stuff, if you put it in a frying pan, is not considered what? It's potter. It's not considered a lechem. Rabbi Yochanan wants to suggest it's a machloikas tanoim because you have a Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda arguing in something. Because Rabbi Yehuda said the only thing that's lechem is something that's baked in an oven. Mashma initially, but ilfis not. And obviously, if the Tanakama argues with him, must hold ilfis yes. And Rabbi Yochanan holds like the Tanakama. Says the Gemara, no, they can be arguing in a total different thing. They can be talking after it's an ilfis and you put it in a tanner. What would it then be? That the Tanakama would say yes, and Rabbi Yehuda would say not. But everyone hold ilfis alone without the tanner is not lechem, and this would be a tiyufta on Rabbi Yochanan. That's what we're holding. Let's go weiter. Amar Rava, my time with Rabbi Yehuda, the Chsiv, it says va'afu es nashim lachmechem b'tanner echad, and 10 women will bake the teichacha. 10 women will bake their bread in one oven. Lechem ha'afi b'tanner echad kari lechem. Lechem that's baked in one tanner is called a lechem. Ushe'ein afi b'tanner echad, right? But if it's not baked in one tanner, first the guy goes into an ilfis, a frying pan, and then it goes into a tanner, ein kari lechem. That's not considered lechem. So I can learn that's the machloikus between Rabbi Yochanan, between the Tanakam Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yochanan does not have anyone want to be samech on. Yosef Rabbi Rav Yosef Achuri the Rebbe Zera.
Rabbi, so why are the lechem upon them called lechem? They went into a mold, into an oven.
Huh?
The lechem upon them were baked in a mold.
It wasn't baked beforehand. The mold they were baking in the mold.
So what? So the ilfis is baking it beforehand?
Yes. Yes, the ilfis is a hot pan.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not that it's holding it. It's now be aware that I think this is the pshat. They would heat up the ilfis and then stick the thing on it. Good. So if that's the way to use it, in other words, they didn't have the fire on it at the time of the baking. They would heat it up and then stick it on it. I think that makes sense to me because, or else the Gemara is not going to make any sense to you. Let's see it inside. Yosef Rabbi Rav Yosef Achuri the Rav Zera. Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef was sitting in the back of Rav Zera. Rabbi Yosef Rav Zera Kamei de Ula. Rav Zera was sitting in front of Ula. Amalei Rabbi Rav Zera. So Rabbi whispered to Rav Zera, "Boy, mi name Ula. Ask Ula the following question: Hidbik mibifnim, versiach mibachutz. Let's say you go ahead, you stuck the dough on the inside of the ilfis, and you went ahead and heated it up from the outside. In other words, a classic frying pan. The heat's on the bottom, and it's on top. So ask him that shaila. Mahu dindi. So Amalei. So Rabbi Zera told Rabba, Maya imalei, what will I say to him? The aminalei, Amalei say, Haininu, my silfis, that exactly is my silfis, that machloikus between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. That's not that. In other words, classic frying is the machloikus. So I don't have to ask Ula that. Amar Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Zera, boy mi name Ula. So ask from Ula, like hidbik mimifnim. You went ahead, put inside. You put it on inside the pan. Va'avuka kenegdai mahu. In other words, Rashi brings here's your pan, here's your dough, and you take a fire on this side, not on this side. You put it on this side, on the same side. So the heat source is opposite is opposite the dough. It's not underneath the dough, it's opposite the dough. Would that be considered baking?
Like a
Similar,
broiler?
similar to an oven, you have the heat in the oven, you have the wood in the oven, and the dough opposite it. So
Would it be like a broiler?
my amalei, what will I say to him? The aminalei, why should I ask him the question? Because if I say it to him, Amalei will say, Roiv aniyim moisen came. Most aniyim, that's the way they make their bread. In other words, case this, everyone would agree in that case that it's considered what? It's considered lechem. So that ends the daf of frying pans. And matzah that is drawn. I wish you all the very